Hello, everyone. Today is episode 10 of Art My Medicine. And well, my year started pretty awesome, considering that I am having all favorite people lined up for a few, first weeks of New Year. And today I have Jennifer with me. And Jennifer is a special friend, and we have a magical story that connected us together. And we are not even in the same country, but we do many awesome things together. And I will allow Jennifer to say hello and tell us a bit of her story.
Oh, awesome. Hi, Dory. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. And thanks so much for having me. Yeah, I'm not sure how much I should say for an introduction, but yeah, I'm Jennifer Mazur. I'm an American who has lived in Sweden for about 20 years now. And I have been dealing with depression, anxiety, and ADD from a very, very young age. And the one thing that I find in dealing with, especially the depression, is that by using creative outlets, it's become part of my daily, um, or maybe not daily for me. I know you're a lot better at creating art on a daily basis, but it's part of my self-care ritual. So there's a combination of meditation, and making art. And these are the three things that I need to have in my back pocket in order to maintain some level of semi calm.
Sanity?
Yeah, exactly. Sanity. Excuse me. And yeah, I work as a mixed media artist, and everything that I create ties back into mental health and working against the stigma that mental health still carries today in 2022, which to me is mind-boggling. And yeah, that's a brief little introduction there.
Yeah, amazing. And this is how we met. We met because of art. That is why I keep repeating that art is magic, because it helps you to connect with amazing people, because creative souls are amazing. And we met. Well, you approached me via Instagram because I was using hashtags of mental health and art and blah blah blah. But then we realized that we are in the same group for artists, and we somehow, I don't know how it happened. You approached me, let's do something together. And
Yeah.
then we had a Zoom, an hour's, well, we're supposed to have an hour Zoom, but we had 2 hours Zoom, and we had an action plan in full, motion. And we did an awesome project together, didn't we? Would you like to tell us what we did?
Sure. For how many did we do in the end? I think it was 6 different
Plus
episodes.
specials.
Plus
So the bit more,
specials.
yeah.
Exactly. So we ended up putting together online Zoom workshops. Um, oh gosh, now my mind is going blank.
Well, we had
Creative
an
release for mental health, for
creative
mental
release
wellness.
for
Yeah,
mental
creative
wellness.
release
Yeah.
for mental wellness. That's my ADD kicking in when I can't remember things. And basically, for 6 different episodes plus specials, we would put together a Zoom where it was free for people to attend, and we would give creative exercises for people to do to help with any sort of anxiety or stress or depression or anything that they were feeling. And both Dory and I would demonstrate how to do a different activity. And they were fantastic because we had great audience, great, people that will participate. And they were really keen on doing the art at the same time as us, and then sharing their not only the art that they created, but the emotions and how the experience felt for them. And the thing that was really special about it is we were trying to show people that didn't necessarily consider themselves creatives or artists, how easy it is to get into a creative process, where you're focused more on the journey than, you know, the end piece, and by using simple materials that most people already have at home. Yeah, and it was absolutely fantastic project that we did. I'm really proud of us for what.
Yes, we did pretty well. And the aspect that we both experience in our story is that you do not need to be an artist to benefit from, you know, healing properties of art. And we were trying to pass that message in. We used very simple techniques that even a child who has developed fine motor skills can really do, and create an awesome product, despite the aspect that it was like a child's play, wasn't it? So yeah, that program, that project ran through 2021. We are hoping to do something again together, but we are now, you know, in the planning mode.
But it will happen. So keep
It
your
will
eyes.
yeah, definitely. We are pretty addicted to each other. So yeah, we even have a funny story, right? We have both daughters, and we have dogs. Jennifer's doggy was in the past. However, how freaking it is to find out that my daughter is called Jasmine and my dog is called Freya. And in Jennifer's case, it was opposite way around.
Yeah.
How spooky is that?
Yeah. Freya is my daughter, Jasmine's the dog. And so every time you're talking to Jasmine, I think it's so strange because you're talking to her like a human, and I'm thinking she's a dog.
Yeah, a lot of confusion for overloaded brains. Yeah. But going back to your story, I know you pretty well, but our audience may not, that your diagnosis and the journey and the recovery, which is ongoing, obviously, this happened not long ago. You haven't been diagnosed with all those struggles
Right.
when you should be. So could you tell us about how was that journey?
Well, the depression and the anxiety, I've had those as diagnoses since I was quite young. However, I still never really felt like that was the full picture. And I, as a child, struggled pretty much in every situation, especially when it came to learning. School was absolute hell for me. But I fell into, I guess, the category where the teachers would consider me a quiet, non-problematic little girl that would sit in the back of the classroom. I wouldn't raise my hand and ask questions. I didn't speak out. And they viewed it as I was shy. And the fact of the matter was, I didn't know what was going on. I was too afraid to ask questions because I didn't want to look stupid. I was failing most of my classes. I mean, like, hello, teachers, let's put two and two together. But because I wasn't hyperactive, and because I was or am a girl, girls were so overlooked. They're some of the, you know, we're the underdiagnosed gender, especially when it comes to things. Well, I can't say especially because I don't know in all of the other different diagnoses, but when it comes to ADD, ADHD, for example, we're definitely underdiagnosed. And, you know, moving on through my life, elementary, middle, high school were absolute hell. Then it became time for university. I went to 5 different universities before I could finish school. And I ended up graduating with a lower degree than I had initially intended to receive. But I found school so difficult. And what would happen was I would start beating myself up. So I'd start with the best intentions in the world, and then I'd take a test and I'd fail it. And all of a sudden in my brain, you know, it would snowball, and it would become, I'm never going to pass this class. I don't know what's going on. I'm such an idiot. I'm so stupid. I'm never going to make it. And I would self-sabotage. I would stop going to classes. And, of course, when you stop going to classes, you fail them. And eventually I would get a letter putting me on academic probation. And then I would stop going completely to all of my classes and be kicked out of the university. And it happened over and over and over
Oh
again.
my God.
Um, and it was absolutely horrifying because the whole time I was feeling like, what's wrong with me? Why aren't my friends struggling with this? Am I that stupid? Am I that horrible of a person? There was a lot of self-hate dialogue going on. And it was the same thing with jobs. I had a really, really difficult time.
Yeah, Stacy comments that she can resonate with that. This is the reason she stopped going to college. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was the same with jobs. It's like at some point I would make a mistake. Simple mistakes.
Don't we all do silly mistakes?
Oh, of course. But what would happen in my brain is I would think, that's it, I'm screwed. I'm going to get fired. I would start calling into work, not showing up, but I would call with excuses. I would stop pushing myself because I figured I've already screwed it up. And I lost so many jobs. Which leads me to the art. But anyway, throughout my life, I've seen a lot of therapists, off and on, and that's a whole different.
I'm sorry, but there is another resonated comment that mistake would make you obsessing over it, not being able to let it go. And this is exactly what I think you're trying to say here.
Exactly. And I forgot what I was saying.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Well, you were saying about jobs that you lost so many.
Yeah, that I had such a hard time with jobs. And then, so I've been seeing therapists on and off throughout my life, which is another big complaint of mine, because healthcare is just not easily accessible to people as it should be. And because I was having a hard time holding down jobs, it also meant I didn't always have health insurance when I was living in the US, or I didn't have money to pay for private, which is still the case in Sweden. So being in and out of therapy, I would have, over the years, several therapists mentioned to me, have you considered the fact that you may have ADD? And I just kind of, whatever. And then finally I decided, maybe I should go for an evaluation. I mean, it's not going to change anything in my life, but it will give me some understanding. And so I finally did. And I got a diagnosis, an official diagnosis, when I was 40 years old. And in some ways, it brought an enormous sense of relief. Because when I saw, for example, the results of my IQ test, I finally had to face the fact that I wasn't stupid. I was above average in lots of areas. In some other areas, for example, with math, I was right around the average mark, but I process things slower and I take more time to do things. And so understanding that was an enormous relief. But at the same time as that diagnosis, there was this little yellow Post-it note attached to the diagnosis saying, you don't need to tell anybody about this. This is your information. And suddenly that huge amount of relief was just replaced with a huge amount of shame. And should I not disclose this information? Is this something I need to be embarrassed of? And I think that's when I became really, really aware of the stigma. Not only that depression carries, but also different diagnoses such as, ADD, autism, bipolar, PTS, any other diagnosis, fill in the blank. They all carry stigma. And that's,
they do indeed.
Yeah. And that's what fuels me today, is just
and this is how the motto of your journey appeared, right? You say that whatever you do art-wise or in other areas is to smash that stigma, isn't it?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
how that smashing the stigma started? What art you create to help to smash it?
I mean, it was a very gradual thing for me, and I didn't quite understand what it was I was doing in the beginning. I just, I was just creating. And suddenly I realized that the art that I was creating wasn't something that would naturally fall into the beautiful category. It wasn't something that people were looking at and going, "Oh, this is so beautiful. I want to have this in my bedroom." And at first, that really bothered me because I wanted my art to be seen as, beautiful. And then I realized that it might not be that beautiful at first.
But
Or
it's
when,
not that it's not beautiful. It is just thought provoking, right? And I
exactly,
think that there is nothing about beauty or no beauty. It is about that it provokes you to think, and people do not like thinking about
exactly.
subjects like that.
Exactly. And I think rather than people looking at it and saying this is a beautiful piece, people look at it from the beginning and say, "Ugh, what's happening here? What is this about?" It leads to a lot of questions. And then when people either hear my reasoning behind the art or read it somewhere, that's when they start looking at it a different way. And they start asking more questions. It sparks conversations. And at the end of the day, that's what I want, for people to start talking about mental health, and for people to um you have people that have suffered with mental health their whole lives, and then you have people that have never even given it a thought, and those are the people that quite often, that's one of the reasons why we have a stigma. And so the purpose of my art is not only to help people identify that have mental health issues, but also for people that don't, to realize, holy crap, this is what these people have to deal with. And maybe I need to change the way I think or the way that I respond or behave to help smash that stigma completely, so you're getting an effect from both sides and hopefully
Indeed,
making
indeed.
changes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the only problem I have in that area, that yes, our art, yours and mine, provokes people to talk about it. But the problem is, yeah, talking became much better in recent years. Mostly the pandemic hitting us hard opened the channels to talk and let it out and be more focused on what's happening in our heads.
Mm.
However, the action that's supposed to follow that talk, it's my problem now, because we do talk much more
Mm.
in comparison to previous years, but I don't think that enough action is taking place. And this is clearly visible in your place of where your home is, right?
Yeah.
Because you experience a lot of frustrations there. Could you tell us a bit about it?
Um, I'm trying to think. In which sense do you mean with
That's the action, the how you are trying to make a change in your
Oh,
own
okay.
country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, it's been one challenge after the next. There are so many different organizations that call themselves, mental health charities, organizations, talk, remove the stigma. We're here for you, so on and so forth. There are so many different organizations that I'm a member of and send money to every single month to help support. And it gets to the point where I feel like they're all talk and no action. And so I had, gosh, it's been almost a year now. Last January, I had a solo art exhibit that was called Smash the Stigma. It featured 20 different portraits of women that all face a different diagnosis. Um, they it was at a gorgeous gallery in the middle of Stockholm, which is where I was living at the time. And I reached out to, I mean, literally, no joke, no exaggeration, 27 different organizations within Sweden, and basically said, this is what's happening. I've got this coming up next month, or I might have started 2 months in advance. And I would love to somehow work together. I'd love to donate a portion of my proceeds to your organization. Um, how can we collaborate? Things like wanting to write blog posts or be interviewed, or just start a conversation and work together. Out of 27 organizations, I got 2 responses, and both of them said, "Good luck." That was it. Um, that was it. Nothing more. And then when I was emailing, I responded. I mean, there was a night when I had a little too much red wine, and I was really, really pissed off. And I just started writing back to these organizations, especially the ones that I personally donate money to. And I said, you have no problem taking my money on a monthly basis, but what is it that you actually do? Here I am giving you money, and I've never seen any of your activities. What are the benefits? Who's benefiting from this? And how are they benefiting from it? And, even still, most people didn't respond. I did get one of the organizations to write back saying, we can put a story on Instagram. And as you know, those go for 24 hours, and then they're gone. All of these organizations have online presence, both web page, blog. Some of them produce digital magazines. Nothing. And it's just heartbreaking that the organizations that exist to make changes, within this realm, weren't even interested in talking to someone that wanted to donate money to them, work together, and cause a bit of a wave.
Unbelievable. It's each time I hear your story, because we do talk pretty often, and I am aware of those frustrations, but although each time I hear that story and those numbers in particular, my mind is blown. It's like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah. And it has made me want to lay down and stop. I don't know how many times, because it is so discouraging. The other thing that really bothered me about it is, when I did have a couple of conversations, I see Stacy's comment, it's completely shocking. And when I would have conversations with some of these organizations, not necessarily through email and through their official contact people, but through like their Instagram messaging accounts, they would say, I'm sorry, there's nothing I could do. And I would say to them, you're on a personal level, you're welcome to attend the opening. I know, obviously this is something you have an interest in. Now, I do have to explain that although the pandemic was in full force at that point, I live in Sweden. There were no restrictions in Sweden. Okay. We did have a maximum amount of people that could be in the gallery. I think it was 10 people or 15 people. Masks were provided. They were considered mandatory at that time. That's only because of the gallery owner, not because of the country or any sort of mandates that had come out. I never had more than 7 people in, and those were friends of mine. Not a single person from any of these mental health organizations attended. My show was for 7 days, and I was there every open hour for 7 days, and not a single person from these mental health organizations came. So it goes beyond the organization as a whole, down to a personal level where...
Exactly, because why would you work for an organization that has a mission to break the stigma and make a change, and then not chase the events that relate to it?
That's right. And I mean, restaurants were still open, movie theaters. It's not like, I know the rest of the world has been dealing with shutdowns and, being stuck at home, but that wasn't the case in Sweden. So you can't use that as a reason.
Exactly.
There's no reason.
And hello, pandemic opened many more channels that people could reach out to you and, and talk to you, see the exhibition and whatsoever. It's like, come on, I am in London, you are in Sweden, and we delivered monthly workshops together, planned, prepped, and it's like, we are living in 21st century, people,
Yeah. Exactly, exactly. And let's see, all they
And
need to
Stacey
do.
say all they needed to do was share that this was happening. Sharing link was a bare minimum for those that claim to support. Exactly. At least that could have been made.
Exactly. I mean, aside from my opening or my show, I contacted some of them on a different basis, asking, because they would write things like, we accept guest bloggers on their web
Okay.
pages, and I would ask, can I blog for you? I was told I was too old.
What?
Yeah, yeah, that they're looking for people in their 20s. And it's like, what about the underdiagnosed? What about the people that have not been diagnosed until later in life? I mean, how is my story, my situation, and my existence not valid enough based on my age? It's just absolutely, absolutely ridiculous. And I've had more connections and support through you, and through people I've met in the UK than in Sweden, which makes me really, really sad, because this is my home at the end of the day. And one of the reasons why I am so incredibly passionate about this is because my daughter has the same diagnoses as I do. She's only 13 years old, and I don't want her to have to deal with the same stigmas that I've had to deal with my whole life. And so I fight for her. And so, whereas I'm really, really happy that I'm able to speak out and get in touch with people in the UK, she lives in Sweden as well. And I'd really, really like to be able to, make waves or be a drop in the water or the puddle, whatever, here in Sweden, since this is where we are. So.
Yeah, Stacey is pretty shocked by the too old label. Exactly, mental health relates to every age. Yeah, indeed.
Exactly.
And it's like, come on, you have received your diagnosis in late, in later time. I know at least a dozen people, including myself, who is going through diagnosis in later age. And it's like, then, I don't understand these logistics. I just don't.
It doesn't make any sense. I mean, my one of my closest friends in Sweden is going through an evaluation right now for a different diagnosis. And there's a part of me that wants to tell her, don't even bother, because you're not going to get any help. It's just placing a label on yourself. And then at the same time, I feel like, but I understand needing to know, for yourself. But there's no help that comes with it. I was kind of thinking that it would open some doors, that suddenly I would get tools, I would get therapy, I would get help to learn how to structure my days, because I still, I still have issues, and I still struggle with exactly the same things. I still have a really hard time setting up my days, sticking to what I say I'm going to do. I mean, there's so many problems that I that I have with ADD.
So, are you trying to say that although you have been diagnosed through the medical system in Sweden, that's it? They gave you a report and nothing follows?
100%. They gave me a report, closed the book, good luck.
Yeah, well done, you did your bare minimum. Oh my God, it's no wonder people struggle, Yeah, this brings me to the question is, if you could make a change in the functioning of the medical system in area of mental health, what do you think would need to change first to give it a bigger wave?
As sad as it is, I would actually say the mindset of the people working within the mental health realm. I think they need to, I don't know, maybe they're jaded. Maybe they've been working for too long within the system, but there's no compassion there. And, just like they didn't show up for my exhibit, or, didn't whatever, take any contact with me, there's no connection there. And I think as long as they're not feeling any connection with the people that they're supposed to be helping, nothing's ever going to get any better. There's not enough money, and I think that's a global issue. There's not enough
Yeah,
money for mental health. But if people that work within mental health, for the most part, or for a large part, are not feeling that passionate about it, who's going to fight for the funding? You know, I mean, how are things actually going to change, rather than a bunch of people that have a diagnosis sitting around screaming that they want help? It has to start, you know, you can start at the bottom and you can start at the top and meet somewhere in the middle. But if it's only, you know, us, and I'm putting us at the bottom, you know, there's nothing else happening. So we're not getting that far. And
yeah. That is why, you know, I believe in the movements, the campaigns that involve people with lived experience of mental health, because I think that those individuals are passionate enough, because they have a deep understanding and deep compassion of what it means to be ill in that area. Do you know about any, you know, campaigns in Sweden that involve lived experience people?
The only ones that I've had any contact with are ones looking for younger people.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Yeah, and I mean, for example, Avicii, the artist, and he took his life a few years ago, and so there's a huge organization in Sweden. You know, that was, I don't want to get this wrong, but I believe it was started by his family, or, you know, someone started it. You know, he was so extremely popular around the world. It's a big organization. They raise a lot of money. But you know, I'm too old. They didn't want anything to do with me. And the other thing that I wanted to say is, you know, even though there's so many of us that have life experience of this, for myself, I know I can start the day with a million great intentions when it comes to smashing the stigma and all these ideas I have and everything I want to do. But I lose steam very, very quickly. And if I'm met with a bunch of no's, or if there's nobody else to help build me up so we can build each other up as a network, I fall flat on my face and nothing ends up happening. And so I think to have people with the diagnosis, as well as organizations that are charged, unless they're coming together, things are just going to fall flat. You know, it's too much to expect from a bunch of people with the diagnosis.
Of course, that is why I think that a collective is such an important tool here, because yes, we may all have a lived experience, but when we are working as a team, we can then substitute for each other when someone is having, you know, a rough patch to you know, to get over with. Yeah, and this is again, you know, like-minded people, you know, having your tribe. But, you know, I need to acknowledge something here. Although you have so much struggle in your place where you live, you still doing things. You are still trying to smash that stigma. You are reaching out beyond Sweden to find that collective. And, you know, and this needs to be acknowledged. You need to pat yourself on the shoulder, Jennifer, because you are still doing it. You know, sod them.
Thank you. Yeah, and I mean, part of that is because of you. Thank you so much. And you know, some of the other friends I've made, I see other people making a difference, and I want to be a part of that movement. And you know, if I can't do it here in Sweden, I'll do it somewhere else. You know, I'll do it wherever people are willing to hear my voice. Yeah,
that's brilliant. Yeah. So if people would like to see what kind of art you do, and I would like to get provoked to think and talk, how can they reach out to you?
Yeah, I have a couple different places. Instagram is the most active platform that I have, and that's jennifermazurart.com. I I also have a web page, which is www.jennifermazurart.com. Through my webpage, I, not only include my art, but I talk about different activities that I have to smash the stigma. I, anything that I'm doing within media, blogs, so on and so forth is all linked there. I encourage people to get in touch for collaborations. Yeah, those are the two best ways. And anyone that sends me a DM or sends me an email, I get back to everybody. I mean, I'm thrilled to interact, thrilled to collaborate, look for opportunities to just get out there in this world and help as many people as we can.
Yeah, well, I hope that there is a creative soul in Sweden somewhere, that you could smash that stigma together, because it's always easier a bit when you have a body to lean on, cry on the shoulder and bend their ears. I'm here always, but yeah, you certainly need to kick that butt of Sweden and no action there. Yeah,
I know. And I have a dream that, one of these days I will sell enough artwork to be able to, to open up a place where people can come and create art for free, regardless of diagnosis, regardless of age, just a free place where people can come and hang out and create art in order to, feel the benefits of creativity and how it's something that we should absolutely incorporate into our daily lives. So that's the big dream. And then to go even bigger is well, especially in Sweden, where I feel it's really needed and I'd like to do something. But at some point to have several of these in lots of major areas in Sweden, and then, hopefully collaborate with other countries as well. And, we have to look after our kids, our youth. We have to look after, adolescents and people in their 20s and whatnot. But we shouldn't forget about people that are older than that, because we still matter as well. And that's where I find a lot of it is falling short, is when it comes to
a bit of encouragement for you.
Oh, thank you, Stacy. Thank you. I hope so. I mean, I'm in it to make a change. My art is not just, I don't create it just for myself. I create it to impact people in some way, and to make waves, and to create conversations, and to eventually, hopefully, make some change.
Yeah. So tell us a bit about this, what you feel when you create that art, when you speak through those images that emerge on your canvases or papers. What is happening inside you when you create?
There's a level of calm, I think, that I don't necessarily find at any other time. Typically when I'm creating, and I'm creating these portraits, for example, I spend a lot of time beforehand doing meditative type warm-ups to try and get me into the right state of mind, where I'm not necessarily fixated on something or overcome with really strong negative emotions, which is a daily occurrence for me. And I try to just kind of lose myself. And with my portraits, for example, I work very loosely. I work fast. I work loose. And I just allow these women to appear on the canvas. And, these portraits, this collection called Windows, when they started appearing to me, I had a really hard time understanding them. Why are these women so out of focus and loose? And but I realized quite early on the meaning behind them, and they had to remain unfocused and loose, because I feel like that's the way so many of us want to appear to the rest of the world. We don't want to be focused on. We don't want people to nitpick on the things that are wrong, and we don't want to be judged. And so we can be wallflowers, or we tend to, put ourselves behind an Instagram filter. But then, with myself and with so many other women I know that do have a diagnosis, we absolutely want to be heard and understood. And that's when I started creating these more realistic eyes that I consider, the window to the soul. And then when I was creating these women, I started to realize that there's more to it than just the diagnosis. I mean, here's Val, and yeah, she has I don't know, PTSD or whatever. And then I was thinking, who cares that she has PTSD? There are so many more interesting things about her. I mean, when I'm talking to you or I'm talking to any of my other friends, I'm not thinking about what diagnosis they have. I'm thinking
Exactly.
about the fact that she likes to sit on the roof and eat pizza looking at the stars, and then that's what makes her interesting, or you know whatever. So I started putting together little stories about all these women, where the last thing that it focuses on is their diagnosis, because it's just another detail. And I want people to really get to the point where they realize, okay, yeah, I've got a diagnosis, but it doesn't define me. That is not the most interesting thing about me. I mean, hell, I go up to my roof at 3 o'clock in the morning and I eat frozen pizza looking at the stars. I mean, that's a lot more, not that I do, maybe I should, but that's a lot more interesting than the fact that, I walk around with 3 different diagnoses, and probably more if I would sign myself up for more evaluations.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, yeah, but indeed, this touches the topic that is very popular nowadays. That you are more than your diagnosis, and yes, I may have ill mental health, but I am me. Firstly, I am me, and look at me, not my limitations or superpowers I have because of my illness.
That's right.
Although those superpowers are cool. But yeah, it's there is still a stigma of this kind, that we look through labels at people who have ill mental health and call them in certain way because of their diagnosis. But when you look at physical illnesses, you do not speak to that person because of the cancer, and and talk about the cancer constantly. That person probably wants to talk about anything other than cancer, right?
That's right.
So yeah, this is pretty important, that you need to see people beyond what you know about the diagnosis. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah, and another aspect, that so many of us is not diagnosed but have several problems, and it's like, how would you approach them then, if you look through labels?
Right.
Yeah, but on the top of that, there was a lovely comment from someone about the age, that I can't find it now, that it is not the number, but how old you feel. And,
Yeah.
So, yeah. And that's funny, because I fixated on a certain number when I reached it, and my mind did not review yearly that number. So when somebody asks me how old I am, I have the urge to say that number. And then I'm thinking, that's not a number. And it's like, I need to do maths to figure out how old I am.
I do too. I asked my daughter,
Good one.
how old am I? I forget.
Yeah.
I'm constantly telling people, just as a joke, that I'm 27, because that's how old I feel, in my heart, not necessarily in my body. And so this year, when I turned 47, it was like a month ago, and I can't even remember. I think I was 47. When my family made a birthday cake for me, they had 27 on the candles, and I laughed so hard.
Oh, bless them. It's lovely. Yeah, I used to say that I am 22 with 20 years of experience.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, which will be a different number soon. Oh my God, time flies. But yeah, going back to art, I know that we need to finish a bit earlier, as you were so committed to meet with me today, that you are tuning in from a hotel room on your time out, and they will kick you out very soon. So we need to finish a bit earlier than anticipated. But yeah, we will definitely see you more. And you know, it's like, keep doing it. I know that you have tough times sometimes because it's awful not to have any acknowledgement and any encouragement around you, close around you, in your proximity. But you know, this hasn't stopped you in the past and will not stop you in the future. So
that's right. I need a lot of downtime. I think you know, I definitely need to recharge. I am affected by it very, very easily. And lately I've been having a lot of these really low down periods, unfortunately. But I always bounce back, and I'm resilient, and I'll always come back and create more art and start screaming my story again from the rooftops to anyone that'll listen.
Yeah, that's cool. And one more question that I think it could be really helpful to others. You mentioned that you have ADD. And there is a lot of problems associated with keeping jobs and doing the tasks. If you could issue 3 tips for any employer of how to make the person who has ADD effective at work, what would it be?
I'd say talk to them, ask them what they need. Don't make any assumptions based on what you've heard, what you've experienced with somebody else, because we're all individuals, and you know, we all need support in different ways. For me, sometimes it's just been something as simple as when I'm wearing headphones, don't approach me. You know, just send me an email asking when we can meet, and I'll look at that email and I'll answer. But you know, if I'm sitting there and I'm concentrating and somebody comes up and talks to me, I don't even know how long it takes me to get back into the flow again. And that's really, you know, very, very disruptive for me personally. So I would say just take the time to talk to your teammates, your coworker, your employee, and find out how it is that you can support them so that they can, you know, do the best that they can possibly do.
Exactly. Well, for the, you know, firstly, the people who have certain problem, they are likely to live with that problem for a long period of time, meaning that they tried several things and know what would work for them, right? So they know the coping mechanism, and it's so important to talk to people about it. You're right. Because I'm aware of time, it brings me to the conclusion of our podcast today. And you know that I create a piece for every guest with them in my mind, without any direction. I just approach a piece of paper, think about my guest, and just splash about, really, right? And something emerges. And this initiative started to support mental health warriors who depend on donations to run all the possible activities. Therefore, I offer those paintings to guests, and 20% of any sales are donated to mental health warriors. And I created one for you. Would you like to see it?
Yes.
I think I know why it emerged, and I will tell you in a second.
Now I've got to get really close to my computer.
Yeah, I will send you this way. I will send you the image, digital image, which will be much more clearer, and the colors will be better. But yeah, it emerged as a butterfly.
Yeah.
And I think I know why, because, you know, I was thinking about you and knowing that you had a lot of domino effect events that, you know, pushed you towards, you know, some upset and hurt and you name it. And I think that this was my intention for you to transform into that beautiful butterfly and open your wings, because after all this hurt, you are now ready to spread your wings.
I am. I'm so ready. 2022 is my year.
Exactly.
I'm so ready. Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you.
You're so welcome. It was lovely chatting to you. We will finish a bit earlier because of the fact that we don't want the person whoever in the room to load our audio. And, as usual, I can't get enough of talking with my friends and fellow artists. And I'm sure that we will be returning at some point to satisfy that hunger. But it was lovely having you and seeing you smiling and looking beautiful. And
it's the red hair. It's red again.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Red are power. Yeah.
That's right.
So have a lovely weekend out. Recharge those batteries and hit that stigma again in full power.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for having me. I love hanging out with you always.
Likewise. Anyone who enjoys our chats, please do subscribe to YouTube channel for mental health, because those podcasts happen on Mental Health Warriors channel. And I will be back in 2 weeks with another amazing guest, and I'm very excited about it. And I wish you wonderful weekend and a bit of self-care. Creative one would be the best. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Very lovely to see you all and see you soon. And have a lovely day.